Bloomberg reporters are reporting that there's actually negotiations now between Sam Altman and the board of OpenAI to bring him back.
What happened to Humpty Dumpty?
I don't
Do you
know.
remember they put it back together or not? This is amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing drama. It started late Friday, as you know, but it still continues right now. We don't know where it's going to play out. But to take us through how we got here and what went wrong, for that matter, we welcome now Erik Gordon. He's assistant professor at the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. Erik, thank you so much for being with us. Let me start with one of the most basic questions. Is this yet another instance of a lot of money in a high-tech startup going awry, as we've seen before in different situations, or is AI really central to this drama?
I think it's both, David. I think AI is central, but in some ways it's just another what were they thinking story. All of these brilliant people, like probably 8 Sigma smart people with billions of dollars doing something which in retrospect makes no sense. And I think if they had paid attention up front, prospectively it made no sense.
Well, Erik, a lot of those people are very smart, no question about it. They tend to be scientists rather than corporate leaders, and they haven't had a lot of experience. Microsoft doesn't fit in any of those categories. They made a really big investment in this. How could they have done that without their due diligence, saying, you know what, we've got sort of a governance issue here?
Well, I teach M&A. I talk a lot about due diligence with students. They would have gotten probably a D- for this episode. But there's another possibility that I wonder about. Is it another Microsoft is behind story? So you'll remember Microsoft was behind. Bill Gates wasn't sure the internet was going to be big. So they were behind in browsers. They were behind in search. They were behind in the cloud. They were behind in AI. Maybe it's just Microsoft throwing its money around, part 4.
Well, it's certainly possible. I mean, at least for right now, it looks like they might actually manage to stick the landing on this. But I am curious why we sort of had to go through all this. When you hear about the founder being ousted by a board, that at least based on what we know publicly, there was no real consultation with the big investors, including Microsoft.
Yeah, Romaine, it's kind of interesting because all of the things that we think about in all of the oust the CEO battles, all the takeover battles, don't really apply here because of the peculiar nature of the companies. So the company that Altman got ousted from is a capped profit company that is controlled by a not-for-profit company. It's not controlled by directors who are venture capitalists, are business people. We don't have activist hedge funds. The usual players who know how business is done, it isn't in play here. It's a not-for-profit board that ousted him. And they said, look, our mission comes before what you're trying to do. You've known that all along. We've made it perfectly clear, but you keep trying to do what you want to do, and we want you to stay on mission.
Well, is that not fair? I mean, after all, Sam Altman was there at the genesis of this structure.
Yeah, he actually he was one of the people who set up the nonprofit that's on the top of the control pyramid here. But I'm not sure that the not-for-profit people are entirely free of responsibility because, well, they went out and they accepted $12 billion or so of Microsoft money. They got into a venture that they knew would require billions and billions of dollars. That's orders of magnitude bigger than the kind of money you raise in a typical nonprofit.
So, Erik, they may not be full of responsibility, but what about power? Because the way it's structured, it appears it is a self-perpetuating, I believe, nonprofit board. They pick their own people. They basically answer to themselves. I believe at least the founding documents have it that the basic purpose is the good of humanity, I think is the way it's put. So how do you fix this situation if they don't want to go with what Microsoft wants to do?
I think everybody has a choice. The foundation can say we're going to stick with safe AI for everybody in humanity, or we can bend a little on that and have Altman back or somebody like Altman. We can continue to attract billions of dollars to build AI or not. And Altman has a decision to make. Does he want to go back Or would he rather be at Microsoft, where it's a business for profit, build it big, take over the world, rather than do good for the world?
Eric, you referred to the billions of dollars. Is that an essential sort of constraint on what the nonprofit board might want to do? Do they need more billions of dollars? And if the investors, basically, existing or future, say, we're not going to play with you, does that really limit what they can do going forward?
I think that's exactly right. I don't think you can build AI. This is one of the things, the special things about AI that you mentioned earlier. It's going to require more billions of dollars to continue to build out AI. It will probably take billions of dollars year after year because you constantly have to build the database that drives the AI. It's kind of a bad fit for a nonprofit. I mean, it's a good idea. Let's have nice, friendly, non-dangerous AI. But realistically, how are you going to do that without taking money from people who don't have the same mission?
Yeah, exactly right. That's a great question. Thank you so much, Eric. That's Erik Gordon. He's clinical assistant professor at the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. So I guess one of my questions is, when are we going to learn? It seems like we go through these things again and again and again. Do we ever learn the lessons of the last one?
I do wonder. I am curious about the structure, though, because I mean, we talk about the cap, being a cap profit company, too. But the idea that it did start off as a complete nonprofit, and they made that decision in 2019 to go to that cap profit structure. So there clearly was somebody who had an awareness of, as Professor Gordon pointed out, the billions of dollars that was necessary to move this thing forward, and they had to change the structure in some way.
And Elon Musk was one of the co-founders originally, and he bailed out when they made that change because he said, I thought this was supposed to be nonprofit, it's supposed to be for the good of humanity. Now you're going the commercial way. And so it was flagged.
But it raises the question, though, how do you build out something like this that is so costly and trying to do it in a way where basically there is no sharing of the riches that maybe come along with it? Who's going to give you those billions?
Yeah, and at the same time, some people are saying it could be the end of humanity. There is that, you know. It sounds a little scary.
Well.